Control is not an apparent virtue. It is an internal architecture. Most people believe that a controlled man is one who feels nothing, when in truth he is the one who feels and remains still. Machiavelli understood that power is not born from impulse, but from the silent reading of chaos. Control is the space between stimulus and decision, where few are able to remain. The ordinary man is a slave to urgency. He reacts before understanding. He speaks to protect himself and acts to justify himself. He mistakes movement for mastery, like an animal thrashing in a trap believing it is breaking free. True control is the opposite of haste. It is armed patience. It is to observe without giving away your gaze, to feel anger without letting it appear in your voice. Machiavelli observed that a ruler does not need to win every battle, only to choose when to fight. That choice is the core of control, deciding the time, the ground, and the response. The man who masters himself chooses the precise moment when the world will see him act. The rest of the time, he is stone. No impulse moves him, no provocation pulls him away. Control is also perception. The man who appears calm is feared because he represents the unknown. The one who shows no emotion becomes an enigma, and the enigma is power. He who displays anger exposes himself to the enemy's reading. He who displays fear opens himself to manipulation. The controlled man, on the other hand, cannot be read, and what cannot be read cannot be ruled. There is a cold logic behind this kind of mastery. To control is not to suffocate the instincts, but to educate them. Anger can become energy, desire can become direction, and fear can become calculation. Everything depends on the internal hierarchy. Thought must command the impulses, never the other way around. A man without control is a machine of reactions. A man with control is a machine of power. The nature of control, therefore, is invisible. It manifests in pauses, in neutral expressions, in decisions made without haste. It is the mastery of rhythm, and whoever masters rhythm masters the game. The controlled man may appear slow, but he advances while others exhaust themselves. He understands that time destroys the impatient and strengthens the patient. Control is not only a defense, it is a weapon. Silence is its blade, and discipline its shield. While others speak to find relief, the controlled man observes to decide, and when he finally acts, his action seems inevitable, not because it was planned in words, but because it was born from total self-command. In the end, control is not about restraining the world. It is about restraining one's own reflection before it. The man who masters the moment masters destiny. Everything else is reaction, and whoever reacts obeys.
There are two kinds of men in the game of life: the one who reacts and the one who observes. The first is led by circumstances, the second manipulates them. The difference between them is not intelligence, but the distance between impulse and decision. The man who reacts is a slave to the present moment. The one who observes governs time. The reactive man lives trapped by the need to respond. He believes silence is weakness, that hesitation means losing ground. He fails to see that every immediate reaction reveals the map of his emotions. Whoever reacts exposes what he fears, what he desires, and what wounds him. He shows too much, and the world does not respect what it can predict. The observer, on the other hand, understands that every provocation is a trap. He does not respond. He reads. He analyzes the hidden intention behind the action, the motive behind the word. While the other wastes energy defending himself, the observer studies the weakness of his attacker. Machiavelli called this the art of appearing absent while calculating the strike. The man who reacts seeks to be understood. The man who observes seeks to understand. That difference is fatal. The reactive speaks to relieve tension. The observer keeps silent to build it. At the right moment, when the other is exhausted, he speaks a single sentence, precise, cold, unquestionable. It is not the kind of answer that convinces, it ends the discussion. There is a disguised pleasure in reacting, and that is why most men fall. Reaction offers the illusion of control, but it is the control of the desperate, the one who struggles to appear strong. The observer needs to prove nothing. His strength lies in his lack of urgency. Those who watch long enough realize that every attack carries self-sabotage. It is enough to wait and watch the opponent destroy himself. The reactive man moves like fire, intense but brief. The observer is stone, motionless but eternal. One burns quickly and disappears.
The other remains when the heat fades. The world belongs to those who can endure silence. Machiavelli saw in this the essence of leadership. To rule is not to respond to everyone, but to choose to whom you will respond. To observe is to master one's own nature. The impulse wants to act. The mind wants to understand. The wise man lets the impulse stir within him until it becomes information. He turns emotion into insight, pain into data, anger into calculation. Thus, he transforms what could destroy him into power. The man who reacts survives. The man who observes ascends. And when the two meet, the first speaks, the second listens, and it is always silence that wins. Machiavelli never wrote about self-control as a moral virtue. For him, restraint was a form of political survival. In his view, the man who allows himself to be ruled by emotion surrenders the throne before even sitting on it. Containment, therefore, is not repression, it is calculation. It is the art of keeping one's own chaos silent until it can be used as a weapon. The common mistake is believing that self-control is passive, a denial of strength. In truth, it is the opposite. To contain is to concentrate. The man who restrains himself does not cancel his own power. He stores it for the right moment. Machiavelli understood that power becomes fragile when overexposed. The prince who reveals his entire soul becomes predictable. And in politics, predictability is another word for death. The psychology of restraint is based on appearance and perception. It is safer to be feared than loved, not because fear is a virtue, but because love depends on others, while fear originates within you. The one who masters his own expression creates distance. Distance creates respect, and respect is the most stable form of power. Restraint is not the absence of emotion. It is control over what others are allowed to see. The modern man, surrounded by noise and exposure, has lost this discipline. He reacts, reveals, confesses. He shows weakness hoping for empathy, but the world interprets it as vulnerability. Machiavelli would have seen the same pattern in the courts of the 16th century. Those who open themselves too much invite manipulation. Power requires reserve, not because the world despises weakness, but because it exploits it. Restraint creates mystery, and mystery in turn creates authority. No one respects the man who constantly explains himself. Respect is born from the unknown, from the impression that there is something that cannot be read or reached. Self-control, therefore, is the source of aura. The less you reveal, the more others project greatness onto you. Silence, in politics and in life, is the language of dominion. But restraint is also a form of warfare. The one who masters himself forces others to reveal themselves. The impatient man exposes himself first. The controlled man watches the enemy stripped bare through words and gestures. Thus power changes hands without a visible movement. Machiavelli would have called this a victory without confrontation, the most elegant form of conquest. The psychology of restraint, applied today, is a social weapon. In discussions, it is the pause that disarms. In negotiations, it is the neutral gaze that forces the other to speak more than he should. In relationships, it is the serenity that confuses the manipulator. The restrained man does not disappear. He rises above emotion, turning control into presence. Machiavelli understood that power does not belong to the strongest, but to the most constant. The impulsive dominates for moments. The restrained governs for decades. The man who masters his own temperament commands the destiny of others. True leadership begins where haste ends, in the cold space of restraint. Provocation is the stage where true mastery is revealed. Every man will be tested, not by his declared enemy, but by the stare that challenges him, the word that cuts him, the injustice carefully designed to provoke him. The world provokes to measure your temperature. Every reaction is a confession, and the man who yields to impulse exposes what Machiavelli would call a useful weakness, the kind that can be exploited. Provocation is an ancient art. The powerful use it as a diagnostic tool. Those who anger easily are dismissed as unstable. Those who defend themselves too quickly are judged insecure. Provocation exists to separate the men who possess control from those who merely pretend to. Every offense, therefore, should be viewed as a test, an opportunity to measure one's own command. The man who reacts to provocation thinks he is defending his ego, but in truth, he exposes it. The provocateur seeks only one thing, the loss of control. It is in that instant that balance breaks and hierarchy is revealed. The emotional man speaks loudly, gestures wildly, and tries to reaffirm himself. The contained man watches the chaos grow and does not move. Silence is his response, and nothing disarms a provocateur more than the emptiness of no reaction. Machiavelli would have understood this game clearly. The wise ruler never answers immediately. He lets the enemy speak longer, rise higher, and exhaust himself further. Every word spoken in anger is a position exposed. Meanwhile, the calculating ruler notes the weaknesses and plans his counterstrike. There is no victory more complete than the one achieved without visible effort. Provocation also exposes hidden intentions. Whoever tries to pull you out of your center is trying to take your place. It is a move of power disguised as confrontation. The controlled man perceives this and declines the invitation to react. He knows that whoever controls the rhythm controls the game, and the one who refuses to dance destroys the other's music. There are moments when the best response is indifference, not out of cowardice, but out of calculation. To ignore is to deny importance, and importance is the provocateur's nourishment. Machiavelli said that contempt is the most sophisticated form of punishment. The man who provokes and receives no answer feels his own emptiness. Silence forces him to face the insignificance he tried to hide behind his attack. In the theater of provocation, the stage belongs to the one who can remain still. The audience watches. The weak lose themselves in emotion, but the composed man keeps the same breath. He does not need to win the confrontation. He only needs to show that he cannot be shaken. Control is the invisible victory that turns the provocateur into a spectator of his own defeat. Ultimately, provocation is a trap for the impatient. The man who reacts loses energy, respect, and mystery. The man who observes turns the attack into information and silence into power. The first walks away exhausted, the second more dangerous, because nothing is more feared than the one who was challenged and never needed to prove anything. Emotional distance is not coldness, it is strategy. Machiavelli would understand that to govern, a man must see from above, and no one sees clearly when trapped inside their own emotion. Involvement is a trap. The more you feel, the less you perceive. A man who wishes to control must learn to observe his own heart as if it belonged to someone else. Emotional closeness distorts reality. It creates dependency, and dependency is the antithesis of power. Anyone who needs to be understood, loved, or accepted has already lost control. The modern world confuses empathy with wisdom, but the wise do not approach everything. They choose what deserves their presence. Distance is discernment, and discernment is self-respect. The man who keeps distance is not indifferent. He simply understands the value of controlling his own energy. Every emotional reaction is an investment, and the common man invests in everything that irritates or fascinates him. The strategic man saves his emotions. He knows that every excess of attachment is a point of manipulation, and every reaction is a form of surrender. Machiavelli saw in the Italian courts the same pattern we see in relationships today. Those who get too involved become predictable. The prince who loves blindly is betrayed. The one who hates without calculation is manipulated. Political control and inner control demand the same principle: enough distance to decide without contamination. The one who observes from afar governs the entire field. Emotional distance is a form of inner silence. It is the ability to feel without showing, to think without betraying oneself, to act without warning. The man who masters this art is not isolated. He is preserved. He understands that being emotionally accessible to everyone is allowing anyone to destabilize him. Power, by definition, requires stability. In relationships, distance is respect. Respect for oneself and for one's own lucidity. The man who gives impulsively trades sovereignty for affection, and affection, when misunderstood, becomes a tool of control. Machiavelli would say that love is useful while it remains under command. When love commands, the man becomes a servant. Balance lies in feeling without submission. This distance is also a form of psychological defense. No insult can penetrate a man who refuses to feel wounded. No humiliation endures before someone who does not react. When the emotions of others no longer dictate your internal state, you become a wall, and the world respects walls more than bridges. In the end, emotional distance is the border between freedom and servitude. The overly involved man is carried by the winds of the world. The distant man moves only when he decides. He does not flee, he chooses. He does not avoid, he selects. His coldness is not the absence of soul, but conscious control over where it is exposed. When used well, distance does not separate, it elevates. And the man who learns to look at the world from afar becomes the one whom the world learns to look up to. The most silent war is fought within a man. No external enemy is as dangerous as the impulses he fails to master. Machiavelli would have understood this easily. Power begins when the mind governs the body, and it ends when the body begins to govern the mind. Every man who reacts before thinking abdicates his inner throne and becomes a servant to himself. The control of internal reactions is the true battlefield of strength. Anger, fear, pride, and desire are unruly soldiers, useful but lethal if not commanded. The ordinary man tries to banish them and fails. The strategic man trains them. He knows that instinct is not defeated by denial, but by redirection. Every emotion is energy. The only question is who commands it. Anger, for instance, is merely ungoverned energy. The weak man explodes and exhausts himself. The lucid man contains it and converts it into precise action. Every insult can be turned into focus, every humiliation into planning. Machiavelli would say that the wise ruler does not seek revenge. He manages the offense until it produces political gain. The same applies to the common man. Turning the blow into a calculated impulse is the essence of mastery. To control internal reactions is, above all, to slow down. Breathe before responding, observe before acting, understand before feeling. Instinct demands urgency. Power requires time. The one who learns to delay his response gains advantage. The silence between stimulus and decision is where a man separates himself from the crowd. It is in that interval that self-control is born. Machiavelli saw emotion as a predictable weakness, a window open to anyone who knows how to exploit it. That is why the man who masters himself is intimidating. He is indecipherable. The one who does not react confuses his opponent. The enemy cannot tell if he has won, angered, or affected him. The absence of reaction is the clearest mirror of superiority because it forces the other to face his own lack of control. This mastery is not achieved through repression, but through awareness. The lucid man observes his reactions as a general surveys the battlefield, identifying patterns, recognizing triggers, anticipating attacks. Each repeated emotion reveals a weak point, and that weakness, an opportunity for reinforcement. To master oneself is to map the internal territory until nothing catches one off guard. With time, the controlled man becomes predictable only to himself. He knows when his blood will boil and exactly how to cool it. He acts with such precision that his responses seem inevitable, and inevitability is the quietest name for power. The world mistakes his calm for coldness, but it is only strategy. A mind that does not tremble is a weapon that never misses its target. In the end, mastering internal reactions is a refusal of emotional slavery. The man who lacks control is ruled by anyone who knows how to provoke him. The man who controls himself becomes impenetrable, and the one who cannot be provoked cannot be defeated. Power does not lie only in being strong, but in appearing unshakable. Machiavelli understood that fear is born from perception, not reality. A man who keeps his expression intact, even in the midst of chaos, projects absolute command. And the world, which reacts more to appearances than to truths, recognizes him as an authority. The secret lies in understanding that the eyes of others are the field where power is cultivated. The ordinary man tries to prove strength through his voice, his words, his insistence. He mistakes intensity for respect. The man who understands the game acts in the opposite way. He speaks less, slows his gestures, controls the rhythm. When others shout, he speaks softly. When others rush, he observes. This dissonance creates an impression of control that needs no explanation, only perception. Appearing unshakable is not pretense. It is perceptual strategy. It means deciding what the world is allowed to read on your face. Anger may exist, fear may exist, but neither should be visible. Machiavelli taught that a prince must learn to appear virtuous even when acting by calculation. The same applies to the modern man. You do not need to be immune. You need to appear immune. The image of serenity is more powerful than any display of strength. A neutral expression is a shield. It protects you from the curiosity of others and from your own loss of control. When you reveal nothing, others are forced to project their emotions onto you, and that confusion weakens them. The man who appears unshakable becomes a mirror. Whoever confronts him sees only himself. That is why he dominates without speaking a word. This appearance of stability creates a rare kind of respect. People adjust themselves before what they cannot understand. The unpredictable, calm, and reserved man forces his surroundings to adapt to his presence. Machiavelli would call this silent power, a form of influence that depends not on orders, but on aura. It is command imposed by calm, not by volume. Yet there is a fine line between appearing unshakable and becoming insensitive. Control should not erase the man, but conceal his emotional field beneath a layer of precision. It is a functional mask, not an emptiness. The goal is not to eliminate emotion, but to keep it under command. The iron that appears cold is the same that, under the right heat, shapes destiny. In moments of conflict, appearing unshakable is the most subtle strike. The adversary expects a reaction to measure your strength. When it does not come, he loses balance. The prolonged silence, the steady gaze, the absence of haste, all of it destabilizes him more than any direct attack. Calmness is the violence of the intelligent. The man who appears unshakable is not the one who feels nothing, but the one who chooses when to reveal what he feels. His strength is interpretative. He controls not only his own emotions, but also the perceptions of others. And when the world believes that nothing can shake him, he has already won. Because power, in its essence, is the mastery of the image of fear. The world is not governed by truth, but by the appearance of truth. Machiavelli understood this before anyone else. Men judge more with their eyes than with their reason. The one who understands this law does not need to be the strongest, only to appear the most consistent, the calmest, the most resolute. Power is an illusion sustained by the consistency of one's image, and whoever controls perception controls the narrative. The mistake of the naive is to believe that value lies in what they are. Power, however, lies in what others believe you to be. The man who speaks little and acts with precision allows the world to imagine him greater than he is. The man who tries too hard to prove his worth exposes his insecurity. Machiavelli said that everyone sees what you appear to be, few sense what you really are. And that distance is what keeps power safe. In the social game, perception is territory. The gaze of others is the field where invisible battles are fought. The man who knows how to shape his image without betraying his essence wins before acting. He chooses when to appear approachable, when to appear distant, and when to appear threatening. He does not lie. He manages interpretations. This is politics on a human scale. To appear is a form of control. The man who seems calm even at a disadvantage makes the enemy doubt his own strength. The one who shows haste, even in advantage, destroys his authority. Perception is a theater, and the one who commands the stage does not need to win the audience, only make it believe. Respect is born from mystery, and mystery from the selectivity of what is revealed. Machiavelli saw control of appearance as a shield against chaos. The prince who displays vulnerability invites attack. The one who shows balance forces aggression to retreat. The same occurs in ordinary life. At work, in relationships, in conflict. The man who maintains composure while the environment collapses becomes the fixed point everyone looks to. Serenity creates hierarchy. The game of perception is also a form of ethical manipulation. It is not deception, it is direction. The man who masters his presence guides the behavior of others without needing to impose. A single look can interrupt an insult. A silence can end an argument. Every gesture is a disguised command. True power needs no explanation, only presence. But there is a cost. Living in this game requires constant awareness. A man must learn to distinguish between being and appearing, without confusing one for the other. Appearance is a tool, not an identity. When pretense replaces truth, mastery becomes an empty mask. Balance means appearing firm without ceasing to be real. In the end, the game of perception is where it is decided who leads and who is led. Ordinary men live reacting to the gaze of others. Rare men learn to shape it. And when the world believes in the image you have built, reality already bends in your favor. Because power does not lie in being. It lies in being interpreted as inevitable. The man who seeks absolute control does not dominate. He imprisons himself. Machiavelli never defended the tyranny of rigidity. He spoke of intelligent command, the kind that adapts without bowing. Total control is an illusion of power. It is fear disguised as discipline, an attempt to freeze a world that was made to move. The man who tries to control everything ends up enslaved by everything. The overly controlling mind lives in a constant state of tension. It does not observe, it inspects. It does not decide, It monitors. Every detail becomes a threat, every uncertainty a danger. This kind of man believes predictability equals safety, when in truth, it equals limitation. The pursuit of total control destroys instinct and weakens intuition, both the most natural forms of strategic intelligence. Machiavelli understood that power needs space to breathe. The wise ruler allows a certain degree of disorder, because it is within disorder that loyalty reveals itself. The same principle applies to inner command. A man must know his own chaos, not eliminate it. To over-control is to suffocate vitality, and power without vitality becomes mere aesthetic rigidity. Solid on the outside, fragile within. Absolute control is a prison built from vigilance. The man who fears losing command lives in exhaustion. Distrust corrodes him, doubt follows him. He begins by controlling his surroundings and ends up controlled by his own fear. True power requires relaxation, the ability to let the world move without feeling threatened by its motion. The man who knows when not to act is stronger than the one who must act always. In human relations, this mistake is fatal. The man who tries to control everything around him destroys admiration and respect, replacing them with resentment and escape. Machiavelli would say it is better to inspire loyalty than to demand obedience. The first is born of authority, the second of fear, and fear, when prolonged, turns into betrayal. Excessive control always produces the opposite of its intent: chaos and loss of command. Balanced control is the one that accepts uncertainty. It recognizes that part of strength comes from improvisation. It understands that power requires room for error, because true stability is measured there. The wise man controls the essential and merely observes the rest. He chooses his battles, his words, and his silences. Everything else is noise. The danger of absolute control is that it kills mystery, and mystery is what sustains respect. When everything is calculated, nothing is magnetic. The man who never allows himself the unexpected becomes predictable, and predictability is the first step toward losing power. Real mastery, therefore, is flexible. It is steel that bends but does not break. It is command that knows when to release. Machiavelli would call this virtue the wisdom to act with measure, even in excess. The control that cannot retreat destroys. The control that can governs. Serenity is the final stage of mastery. It is not peace, it is inner authority. Machiavelli would have recognized in it the rarest form of virtue, the balance between calculation and indifference. A serene man is not one who feels nothing, but one who feels without becoming disorganized. His mind is a throne. Nothing invades it. Nothing dominates it. Serenity is the kind of power that does not need to prove itself because it has already conquered its own noise. The world confuses serenity with passivity, but there is a difference between stillness and surrender. Serenity is the highest form of control, for it governs what cannot be seen, one's internal state. The serene man carries chaos within him without letting it overflow. He does not fight against what he feels. He transforms it into silent movement. His calm is not the absence of war, it is total command over it. Machiavelli saw constancy as the virtue of rulers who endured. Power does not stand on impulses, but on emotional predictability. Serenity creates that predictability. It is the steady gaze in the middle of a storm, the restrained gesture when everyone else expects despair. Serene presence communicates something the world instinctively understands. He who is not disturbed commands. The serene man is dangerous because nothing pressures him. He has no urgency, and a man without urgency cannot be controlled. When the environment demands reaction, he offers silence. When conflict demands response, he offers time. This strategic slowness disarms chaos and turns the impatience of others into weakness. Serenity is the art of winning without raising one's voice. In human interaction, the serene man becomes a reference point. He commands respect through stability. The unstable gather around him as if seeking shelter. His energy orders the environment effortlessly. Machiavelli would call this natural command, authority that needs no decrees because it rules by example. A man who governs himself does not demand obedience. He inspires restraint. Serenity is also a form of resistance. It prevents external emotions from penetrating a man's center. He can hear insults, pressure, and threats, yet none of them change his pulse. This is not insensitivity, it is immunity. The world respects those who do not waver, because it recognizes them as something rare. men who no longer move according to the common rhythm of others. The power that comes from serenity is invisible but absolute. It does not shine, impose, or display itself. It simply exists. And that quiet existence unsettles those who live through conflict. Serenity is the end of struggle and the beginning of the inner empire. It is victory without spectacle, glory without noise. In the end, the man who attains serenity stops competing. He observes the game but does not play it. He acts when he chooses, remains silent when he must, and stays when all others leave. In that steady silence lies the highest form of power, not needing anything in order to remain whole.